Hi folks, my name is Mike Dobbs. I'm your host here for Government Matters on Focus Springfield. And today we have got an interview with Jeremy Whalen. And we've talked to Jeremy before on these airwaves, but as you probably know, he's running against Richard Neal for the Democratic nomination for Congress, which means he's been hard at work as the primary. Well, early voting starts August 22nd.
August 22nd.
And then for those of us geezers who actually like to go to a polling place and put our X next to a name, that'll be September 1st. Thanks very much for taking the time. I know that you are you trying to visit every community in the district?
Yeah, so we have hit, first off, thanks for having me. Look at these socks, everybody. Can we get the, we were having this conversation before. I need to upgrade my game. Upscale socks, Lenny Underwood, right here in Springfield. That's what's going to be on my feet come the candidates forum. But okay. We're trying to, and we will hit, and we already have hit, every single one of the 83 municipalities right here in Mass 1. And we have, the last 2 days, hit 41 or 42, primarily in northern and southern Berkshire County. And it's been fascinating. We've stopped, for instance, in Peru, Mass, population 800. Driving by was the chair of the select board, and he stopped, and we had a 20, 30-minute conversation, and we're talking about the pilot program of the state and how there's inequities in how much the municipality gets in money as compared to the eastern part of the state for state land. And it just fills you in all of these different ways. And it's been beautiful as well. I mean, we just have such an amazing district, and it's been informational throughout.
And this has been in that yellow van that you...
In the yellow van. We put 450 miles on in the last 2 days. And that's not even considered city. That's dirt roads in the middle of, you know, nowhere. So
I understand it doesn't have air conditioning?
No AC.
Okay.
No.
Wow.
You got to have the windows down.
I hope you're paying that young man here with the camera
Joey,
very
our
well.
comms director, he's been there through thick and thin.
Okay.
We've had to stop for turkeys and deer. And yeah, it's been an amazing journey.
What are people telling you? What are they talking about?
This is a huge district. It's 30% of the land mass of Massachusetts. And so those unique stories happen, for instance, in Peru or Egremont or any of these places. But there's also universal trends. And what are those trends? Well, we're seeing healthcare rise costs 20 to 40% over 1 year. And kind of taking those factors, we're seeing municipal budgets break with Prop 2.5s. And you start to factor in the unaffordability of everything that we're talking about and considering. And the rural areas have particular concerns when it comes to things like sustainability is what I say. When renewable energies come, a corporation comes in and creates a plan. You want the stakeholders within that community to have a certain level of autonomy. And we also think about things like right here in Springfield with the new Justice Center and having some say in placement and what happens in the surrounding area in regards to economic development. So there are nuances that you need to know on the really granular city and town level. And then there's also things that apply across the board, and you got to be plugged into all of them.
Okay, so I'm sure that you've been following the news in a number of primary races. Basically, we've seen progressive Democrats win over traditional moderate or centrist Democrats, and I hesitate to use labels because I think that labels are very box-like and frequently unfair to candidates. The gentleman who won in Michigan, whose name I'm blanking on,
Abdul El Sayed.
Okay,
yep.
He came right out and said, "I'm a capitalist. You know, if you want to call me a Democrat socialist, I can't really go along with that." But then his positions are very similar, if not identical, to many of the Democratic socialists.
Yeah.
All right, so I want to put you in a box. What the hell?
Yeah, for sure.
Obviously, I think you would call yourself a progressive.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you think that people are going to understand the difference between a progressive and a democratic socialist as we move forward? Because I'm sure that someone's going to tag you with that, because if I remember correctly, and please correct me if I'm wrong, you've been endorsed by the organization founded by Bernie Sanders.
Our Revolution, yeah. Our Revolution Massachusetts chapter.
Right.
Yeah.
And so with that endorsement, it's like, okay, so what is Jeremy? Because, and again, I know I'm being unfair, but everybody is always going to ask you, how do you describe yourself in the elevator pitch, you know?
Yep.
So how do you describe yourself to voters?
I have in my bio, I think it's on Instagram, it says educator, academic, I have my doctorate, dude from Western Mass. And why did I put that? Because again, I think that we get stuck in labels far too much. When I hear progressive, I hear what I often say, progressive is practical. It's the things that you need for a functioning society. And another one was on that post that I had announcing our endorsement from Our Revolution, Massachusetts. Somebody goes, "You're a socialist." And I go, well, yeah, there's certain elements of socialism that are I am in favor for, and they're also embedded within our society. And then I put, for instance, I want to protect and expand your safety in retirement and make sure that you have money coming in. What was that called? Social Security. What's the first word in that? Social. There are certain elements that we need for a functioning society, and those are often tempered with the expectations when you factor in political finance in a post-Citizens United world. And when I talk about universal health care, you can get stuck in the label, or you can say that the system is broken and it is already prohibitively expensive on the household and the municipal side, and we need solutions, and all other developed countries have this. And so I'm a problem solver before anything. On the Democratic Socialists of America side, there are certain elements that I agree with in their platform. There are certain things that I don't. For instance, a defunding of the police. I think that we need more resources, not military armaments and things of that nature, but services for education. I always tell this story. I know a young man who entered a police force in the surrounding area, and the first day on the job, he was called to a wellness check and found somebody deceased. And we need to be providing resources for the individuals, EMS and healthcare professionals, those frontline responders. And so that's problem solving. And it's not just blind allegiance to a party or blind allegiance to a certain political ideology. That's listening to individuals. That's getting their stories, and that's information that becomes advocacy, and advocacy becomes action.
I've often wondered with candidates like you, and don't take offense. Well, you may take offense.
I don't take offense to anything.
Okay, so why didn't you start your political career like on a select board or a school committee or a planning board? I've often wondered about people who go from 0 to 60, you know,
Yeah.
and going from, you're a school teacher, going from that profession to say, I want to go to Washington, I want to go to Congress. That's one hell of a leap. What motivated that leap? Or is it that you really don't harbor an ambition to sit through 6-hour select board meetings someplace?
I am a civics nerd, so I love that part. But the true answer is, I never intended, and I don't intend, to make a career out of this. I believe in term limits. The way in which I've been political in my life is through education and giving opportunities to a younger generation that can think critically and survey the world and apply all of those skills that I give them in order to create a stronger, more compassionate and kind existence. And I saw where we were going as a country. And as I was progressing down the line, I got my master's and I got my doctorate, and I was progressing further and further on the academia side, while I saw the people around me hurting more and more from the decisions on the legislative side. And I always say this, when the congressman's campaign or anyone talks about the idea of not having experience, I have experience in what actually matters here. I have the relationships that I've developed. I have the connections. I have that academic background, which is thoughtful analysis and talking to experts and consulting with the individuals that are stakeholders within the community. All of those are direct translatable skills. And I also say, if an individual that has dedicated their life to public service in the classroom and has a doctorate is seen as unqualified for Congress, I think we're in trouble as a society, to be honest. But nonetheless, I think that all those skills are transferable, and it's not only that you have to be an expert in policy and legislation, you also have to be an expert in your district, and that's what we're doing. That's what we're doing with this road trip. That's what we're doing by being constantly at events and talking to individuals. And I'm wearing the shirt right here. It's from the Juneteenth ceremony in Mason Square. And I was there helping out, distributing waters, doing double dutch with the community. And that is right there, that community building is part of the essence of what we're doing. So I think the other part of this is that when people ask me, why not select board or why not state rep? Because I tell them, because I would lose those races, because we have a lot of good work going on the municipal and state level. We're just failing to connect the dots on the federal. And so I have all those relationships with those individuals, and I'm going to continue to develop those relationships, and I'm going to alleviate those problems and concerns from towns and on the state side as well.
All right. Now, this is another one of these greatest hits questions. And I'm sure you've been asked this before, but I'm going to ask it again, if I didn't do it last time. All right. If you beat Congressman Neal and you become the candidate September 1st, odds are you're going to be the congressman. If you're the congressman, you're going to be a freshman. I don't have to tell a school teacher what a freshman experience is like. Okay?
Yeah.
There are some people who would say that the district will be in at least a temporary disadvantage because we do not have a member of Congress with seniority, with relationships with other members that have been built over time. If you're elected, you got to deal with this. How would you deal with it?
I think the first thing we have to talk about is dispel the myth that we are somehow benefiting from this seniority. The congressman is going around to Blandford and Charlemont and all of these places, taking a victory lap on $14 million of community project funds, also historically known as earmarks. First off, that's taxpayer dollars, and those are grants written on the municipal front. To take credit for that is one thing. I disagree with that. The other part of that is that we went back 5 years to see how much we're bringing in comparative to the 9 representatives throughout Massachusetts. We rank 5th out of 9, and we rank below average for bringing those community project funds in. He wants you to believe that we're getting something out of this deal, but who really benefits from this? It's himself taking the corporate money and the cycle of give to the campaign, spend that on luxury goods and services, and then inaction on the front of things that we need. So when you take money from Pfizer and United Health and hundreds of thousands from healthcare lobbyists and pharmaceutical companies, you are not going to be a champion for Medicare for all. And what do you do with that money? You spend almost $1 million over the last 15 years at the Chatham Bars Inn on the Cape, 20 minutes from your $1.3 million Cape House that has nothing to do with the lives of the individuals in this district. And so I always have to point that out because that is hypocrisy at its finest. That is what we have been led to believe because we have a smaller media market that doesn't have the wherewithal to do true investigative journalism on his finance. And he hasn't had serious challengers that in quite some time that are calling this out. The other part of this is that tenure on the House Ways and Means. His own son has lobbied before the House Ways and Means Committee. His own son gets thousands of dollars a month from his campaign, to the point where his son actually has a bigger allowance from daddy's campaign account than the median household income of Springfield. You're not going to understand what's going on in your district if you're not out there, and you're certainly not if you're in some elements of corporate campaign finance that is creating a situation where that dissonance takes place. The other thing that I say about this is, as a freshman coming in, there is power that is wielded within the halls of Congress, and there's also power wielded in the court of public opinion. And winning this seat sets a precedence. It says that we are here, there's a new vision and energy to the Democratic Party. We're going to align ourselves with the progressive champions, but we're also going to do it our way and create relationships across the political spectrum. And we're going to take our country in a new direction with a new generation, and we're going to do it together. And that's what I'm really excited about.
Do you see yourself as a guy in Congress who says, I got a bill, I need supporters? Do you see yourself going across the aisle to a Republican saying, I think you'd be interested in this? Let's talk?
I would walk through broken glass to the most conservative Republican door of the 434 doors in Congress if it meant getting bipartisan support on a bill. Because it's important. That door always needs to be open. And it harkens back to growing up in Belchertown. Belchertown, growing up in the 90s, was a really politically diverse place. It was rural farming community meets suburban sprawl. I found myself on the progressive side of that. Both of my parents are educators. The idea of the safety nets and the Social Security that we're talking about always been established there. And I talked to people on the opposite side of the spectrum who I trust and I respect, and they respect me. And developing those relationships in a bipartisan way is the way that you have to get things done. And I think that we are really in tune with that. We do a really good job at, building bridges rather than burning them. And I think that that's what our country needs right now in this moment.
One thing that you've alluded to, which is certainly, as a senior citizen, on my mind almost constantly, which is healthcare and how do we pay for it. You have supported Medicare for all. Mm-hmm. How do you envision overcoming the objections about what that would cost?
It's cost savings, to be honest. So I sit on the couch of my friend Bob Paulin. He's in the Policy and Economic Research Institute at UMass. And I ask him these questions. How do we afford this? How do we pay for this? One of the things he does is look at case studies and creates these evaluations on the state level. We have one in here, MassCare. And when you factor in the cost savings of a single payer system, now you're not interfacing with the greed and bloat across dozens of providers and having to go through and seeing what can happen, what can't. You save money and you save time for those healthcare professionals to actually be rendering services that are critical to health and well-being. And so it's hard for people because we have a societal perception that if you see, for instance, an increase in your taxes, but you're seeing savings in your bill, that's a hard thing to reconcile within the minds of people. But that's how it works. It's a combination of the increased taxes are saving billions of dollars, and you're creating a more equitable system here. And so I always tell people that the burden shifts from paying that bill for United Health and getting that sticker shock right there. It factors into your income taxes, or let's create a system where those taxes are spread out a little bit through kind of commercial enterprise and other aspects. And let's get better healthcare and savings while we're at it. So it's as much of a mind shift for people to understand that because we're always programmed and tuned into this idea that our taxpayer dollars aren't going to things, even though we have that new road that's paved or that new school that's created. So it's an educational opportunity as well, but there's savings that is there.
Okay, I'm a big advocate for West-East Rail. I think, well, maybe Jim Kenney, the Republican, would dispute this, but I think that I wrote more about it than anyone else in the Valley.
Nice.
And I'm going through your website this morning, and there is something that you wrote that absolutely fascinated me. You said that you support West-East Rail, but you then supported something else, which no one has talked about, which I think is very good, which is a high-speed train from Western Mass to New York City. I know during the summer, Amtrak runs an additional schedule from Manhattan up to Pittsfield, accommodating the New York City summer tourists. But this is something that would go beyond that, because obviously it's just not going to be for tourism. It would be for regular folks who want to go north-south, but in that Berkshire County corridor.
Yeah.
I've never seen anyone advocate for this before, so I'm very curious. How did you come up with that?
It's personal to me, actually, because I do long distance with my wife Monday through Friday. She's working in New York, in Manhattan, and drives 3.5, 4 hours up on the weekends so we can spend less than 72 hours together. And we've done that for our entire relationship.
You may be married a very long time.
Yeah. Distance makes the heart grow fonder.
You know?
But it's something that I've seen and experienced within the infrastructure. What you typically can do is you either drive to New Haven and then get from New Haven to New York, or you take the train, but the train often takes 4.5 to 6 hours, and you can get work done, but to really connect in a fast and efficient way, not just the west and east part of our state, but thinking comprehensively of north and south. That opens up a lot of doors. It opens up a lot of opportunities for individuals like my wife who can't find that same job out in Western Massachusetts, but we have connections and we've been here for a couple generations and we love it here and we want to be here. We had to make that choice of buy a apartment in New York or buy a house here, and we chose here because we love it so much. The other component of this that I always say is that we need to develop this out in a way that cushions any economic repercussions on the house inflation or the economics of the region. So we've seen that with COVID, individuals moving out of the city, having city money, and then prices around in the region become inflated and start pricing out individuals that have lived here for a long time. So just as much as we need to talk about the development of high-speed rail and connecting, I mean, we also need to talk about how to just simply connect West-East Rail. We've thrown millions of dollars at it, but we haven't seen real valuable leadership in a way that we've been talking about this for decades. Joey, my communications director, can't take a train from Boston to Springfield to get here. Needs to take a bus or similar means. And so we need to develop out those systems, and we need to also think about ways in which it's not impacting people to push them out of homes that they've often had for generations.
Well, just to follow up, I mean, the announcement that was made, I think it was either earlier this year or late last year, was that in 2029, Amtrak will add two more trips to Springfield.
Yeah.
Right now we've got a trip coming from Chicago and a trip coming from Boston, which is not convenient unless you're going to Chicago, basically.
Yeah.
So when they made that announcement, I had to say, 2 more trips a day is not what I think is going to be needed to build a ridership. My personal concern is because it's not going to be high speed, we're not going to be able to build a ridership.
Yep.
If I could say to you, let's go to something in Boston and it's going to take us an hour to get there instead of what is conceived as a 2-hour, well, it's not 2-hour drive on the Pike, as you know, it's probably closer to 3. We need that extra element of speed. And that's why when I saw this on your website, I thought, well, that would be excellent to have a high-speed rail from Pittsfield to New York that covers a whole part of the state that needs to be covered.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of work that yet needs to be done on this to make it actually practical for building a ridership.
Yeah, absolutely. The other thing that is interesting too is that I have conversations with the pit stops along West East Rail that aren't necessarily Springfield or larger areas like Pittsfield. Palmer, for instance, there are talks about where to place that in Palmer.
Right.
Do you place that 2 miles down from downtown? Do you place it right at the Steaming Tender? That's a restaurant that's right there. I'm a bigger proponent of putting that within the downtown center to revitalize that area, but we need to have talks of that, and we need leadership that is talking to all of the stakeholders, the state reps and state officials, the municipal leaders, the business owners, to say, hey, this is not just connecting the dots. This is an economic opportunity for often impoverished or depressed areas in Western Massachusetts and Central Massachusetts that we really can take advantage of. It's one thing to throw money at a situation, but it's also another to see it through on the leadership side. I think about our beautiful train station here in Springfield that's not connected to the larger economic hub of downtown. It takes, a quarter mile to get, and it's dark streets and vacant businesses. We need to have that leadership that is connecting all of those dots and talking to everybody in a way that it all makes sense, and we're just not getting that right now.
Right. Okay, we're coming up here at the close of things, and I want to give you an opportunity to talk a little bit about your campaign from this point on. On Monday, you're going to be at 52 Sumner in Springfield doing a debate with Nadia Millerin. I'm going to be the moderator. And then, after that, September 1st will practically be upon us. Is there anything special that you're going to be doing in terms of campaigning from that point to September 1st?
Yeah, I'm going to correct you on one thing.
Please
it's a
do.
Candidates forum that is coming up on August 11th, in which Nadia Millerin, independent candidate, and I are participating in, and the congressman has refused to participate in. In fact, he has either not responded or refused a candidates forum in Pittsfield. There was a smaller one in Belchertown that I attended. He did not show up to any caucus, including Springfield. He hasn't had an in-person town hall since 2017. He simply doesn't show up.
Now, you are debating him, though.
He agreed to a debate on his terms for 30 minutes on August 26th. Why August 26th? The last day to register to vote is August 22nd. The last day for early voting is August 28th. How is that participating in democracy? That's what really upsets me and disappoints me, is that we have, since the beginning of this in September, shown up across Springfield, across the larger region of Mass 1, and he's been a ghost. And now, more than ever, people need answers, and they need the direct talk and discussions needing to take place. And we haven't seen that. We haven't seen that for almost a decade. And so what I'm really excited about this last month, we're on this road trip. We're going to hit all 83 municipalities, and we're doing it with smiles on our faces and a bunch of wonderful people right beside us. We're going to be continuing to do our traditional grassroots approach of door knocking. We have an entire week of door knocking in Springfield coming up, and that's all going to lead to a big canvas on August 22nd. Last time we were in Springfield, we had 85 people, and we knocked 3,100 doors.
Excellent.
And it was amazing. I've been doing that since day one. I actually went to your neighborhood
Yes, you
and
did.
knocked doors right there.
I'm sorry I wasn't home.
Oh yeah, but there were individuals in your neighborhood that were really that were there, and we had some amazing discussions. So we're going to continue doing our thing.
Okay.
We're going to continue having those conversations, and I think that people are going to be pleasantly surprised September 1st at the hope that we're bringing to this district.
Jeremy, thank you much for taking the time to sit down
Always a pleasure,
and
Mike.
talk to you. And folks, thanks very much for watching this episode of Government Matters right here on Focus Springfield.